The Florida Gators continue their massive recruiting run with the commitment of linebacker Malik Morris in the 2026 class.
You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Gators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day we are available daily and free wherever it's in the podcast and on YouTube. I hope you know when I said hello and welcome back to I almost said another commitment. Must be just habit at this point, right? The Gators are still red hot. Happy Tuesday. I am Brandon Olsen. Find all my written work with New York Giants on SI. Find me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. And the Florida Gators, just awesome recruiting momentum there continues on with the addition of Malik Morris, linebacker out of Lakeland. Interesting thing that is a big talking point surrounding Malik Morris's recruitment right now is that depending on where you look, the weight is very different, right? You look at On3, and it's even weird that, On3 lists him as 6'1", 225 pounds. He's a 4-star on every service, by the way. I forgot if I said that, but On3 lists him as 6'1", 225 pounds. But when Hayes Fawcett, who uses the On3 rivals recruiting stuff, which, by the way, that's what it is usually. When you see, 4-star linebacker did this, 3-star did this, 5-star did this, he's almost always using the On3 stuff because he's an On3 guy. But he listed 6'1", 250 pounds, which is interesting. Because On3 lists him as 6'1", 225 pounds. And there are rumors, I guess, reports, we'll say, that Malik Morris is at one point up to 270 pounds, which might be true or might have been true, I guess, in the past, because while we got the reports or we got the rumors that, hey, he's up to 270, we also got reports that he was down to 240, 250-ish. And again, Hayes Fawcett tweeted him as 6'1", 250 pounds. Important to note that weight fluctuation is not what I do think a lot of people, a lot of players, when they have their weight fluctuate like that, it is concerning, right? But with Malik Morris, we have an explanation for it. And so it's not as concerning to me. Like the way that I think about it, and you can feel how you feel. But the way that I think about weight fluctuation is if it proves to be a consistent thing, and if it's, legitimately fluctuating up and down. Malik Morris played at the weight that he was playing at, which I do believe is closer to that 6'1", 225-pound mark, and ballooned up reportedly while dealing with a knee injury. And I get it. Obviously you don't want someone to gain that much weight because in an ideal world, they're dieting properly and all that. But there's also levels to everything, right? Knee injury means he's not going to be active. He's not going to be running around. He's not going to be doing much, obviously. So he's going to be more sedentary, and that leaves you more prone to gaining weight. The diet, not everybody has the wherewithal, the means to eat that healthy lifestyle that we can talk about. And also, kids are, especially athletic kids, are just superhumans with what they can consume, what they can shed weight-wise. So I'm really not concerned about it because it's a one-time thing that we can explain, and so don't really care, right? He committed to Florida. If he goes through his first, we'll say, spring, and he's listed as after his first spring, probably like 230, whatever that may be, right? He's listed as 230 then, and then he comes back for fall camp and or OTAs, whatever you want to call anything. He comes back and he's 255, 260 when he was just 230, then we could say, all right, that's not a good indicator, right? But for a one-time thing to happen only while he was injured, yeah, sorry, I can't care about it. I just don't. Especially when we're not even at his senior year, right? So he can come back and go. He can come back from his senior year, be 240. I'd be fine with that. 240 is big for a linebacker in today's day and age of football, but 240 is also not unplayable, especially for the type of linebacker that Malik Morris is, which we'll talk a little bit more about in the next segment. But Malik Morris, we're not going to go full in-depth scouting report. We'll talk a bit more about him. But at 6'1", if Malik Morris is playing at anywhere in that 225 to 240 range, I don't think that that's too bad, especially if you maintain your mobility and your athleticism. I don't think it's a big negative at all, right? The last few months for Malik Morris have felt like they've been all Florida as far as the actual recruitment goes, have felt like all Florida. There were rumors going basically since last Thursday. I want to say that's when they really started. I don't want to say gaining traction because I feel like they were nonsense the whole time, but started we'll say gaining traction. Not in the sense they were actually happening, but in the sense that social media started talking about them more. Those started really popping off, last Thursday. Friday came around and people were getting a little skittish. He ended up pushing the commitment back from Friday, July 4th to Monday, July 7th, which wasn't a big thing because even the July 4th date was never set in stone. It was always what we were expecting situation. So we had all those reports come out and it was like, other schools are throwing money at him and he might take more money elsewhere. If he stays with Florida, he's going to have to take less money. He's going to have to do this, that, this. I'll be honest here. Even if there was any validity to those rumors, which I'm sure schools were circling back and throwing money, because that's how basically every recruit is now, right? Every highly touted, very talented recruit is getting those last minute, last day, hey, what if we up the bag to this amount? And then see what happens. Like, sure, that happens all the time with kids. I don't think that that's a big deal, to be honest. I don't think it's a unique situation. But even then, the whole time, like the legitimacy of it happening kind of just felt like timeline nonsense, right? Which we know what timeline nonsense is. It's people pretending that they know more than they really know, people pretending that they're more in the know than they really are, and people pretending that they're more important than they really are to go, oh, I know this thing's happening. And it's really sad to watch people do it, if we're being honest. But again, with Malik Morris, it kind of felt like nonsense the whole time. Again, even if it was legit, it felt like nonsense. The whole come out of nowhere when everybody's for a month going, yeah, it's Florida by a mile, and then come out of nowhere last minute, last couple days, the midnight hour, the witching hour, whatever you want to call it, and then start thinking that all of a sudden things are going to shift, just didn't feel like it made a ton of sense. When watching his commitment ceremony, he picked up a Texas A&M hat first. My first thought was, oh, he's doing a fake out. Like, I wasn't like, oh my God, he just committed to Texas A&M. Watching it, I saw him pick up the Texas A&M hat, put on the Texas A&M hat, and I was like, he's faking it. Like, there was no doubt. And then he said, the University of, and I knew it wasn't Texas A&M, and we knew it wasn't Miami the whole time. So it just felt, again, like, it felt like Florida the whole time. It just, especially after the official visit. It felt like Florida. Felt like Florida so much that when he was on his official visit, we thought he might commit. When he came back for an unofficial visit afterward, we thought he might commit. It felt like Florida. I just can't pretend that this is one where we were really sweating bullets for. Or at least I wasn't, because again, even the rumors just didn't really feel legit and threatening. And so didn't bother me. Florida could continue adding to this linebacker class this week. We'll talk about that when we get back with Locked On Gators. Have you ever decided at the last minute to head to a ball game with friends or family? Maybe it's a game day and you realize, hey, you know what? Actually, I want to be in the stands for this matchup, right? I want to be in person for that. It's exactly where Game Time comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last-minute tickets without the stress. I went to see a soccer match this past weekend with Game Time. I bought the tickets an hour before the game. Real Madrid versus Borussia Dortmund. Went to go see it. FIFA Club World Cup's going on, right? Might as well. With the money that you could save on tickets, you could splurge on food, merch, or even invite a bigger group to come with you. And Game Time makes it all possible. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account. Use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Thanks again for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day every day. We are available daily and free, referencing the podcast and on YouTube. And so we spent a bit talking about the addition of Malik Morris, right? That's your first linebacker in the class. Okay? Florida could add more this week because, I mean, right now they are leading for DQ Forkpa, which is potentially going to be a big addition to this class right away. And Izayia Williams is still very much in the fold. And this always leads to an interesting conversation about, we'll go back to last week, right? Before Malik Morris committed, and people were like, well, is it going to be Malik Morris, the DQ Forkpa, and then you turn away Izayia Williams? Or is Malik Morris going to commit, and then you get Izayia Williams, and then you turn away DQ Forkpa? What happens? Do you take Malik Morris and DQ Forkpa jumps his schedule early, and then you don't take it was just a whole bunch of stuff with people talking about who they'd take and why they would take them. And my stance is still the same, that I would gladly take all three. I would. I'd take them all. I will say this. I think Florida would take them all too. Like, Malik Morris committed to the Florida Gators yesterday. DQ Forkpa is committing or is set to commit on July 12th, so this Saturday. Whether or not Izayia Williams commits before DQ Forkpa or commits after DQ Forkpa, I don't think you say no to anybody here, right? I do think that that's where it stops, but I don't think that you turn down any of these three. Like, if you get, let's say, Malik Morris and either DQ Forkpa or Izayia Williams, but you don't get both of them. So let's say DQ Forkpa commit, Izayia stays with Ole Miss. I don't think that Florida goes looking for another linebacker. I think that the way Florida is looking at this is essentially any of these three are in. Anyone else, not in, provided we have two linebackers. That's just how I think of the way they're approaching this class. Because there wasn't ever really a ton of traction with Florida and other linebackers in this cycle, right? It felt like for most of it, it was Malik Morris, DQ Forkpa, Izayia Williams. Izayia Williams, of course, was in the class at one point and then flipped to Ole Miss rather unexpectedly. At least the timing of the flip was rather unexpected, but it happened. But again, I think that as long as Florida has two linebackers in this class, they don't go lowering standards or looking for anyone else and pursuing anyone else, unless someone really pops off on film this fall. I don't think that they go looking for anyone else. Malik Morris, like I mentioned before, we'll talk a little bit about his play style. For me, at least, I feel like he plays more like a thumper than elite cover man, right? And I feel like that's kind of how people try to bunch linebacker right now, which is why I'm using that, where they're trying to go, hey, are you more of a run-stopping thumper, or are you more of a cover man that's going to be just playing in space? And I think that Malik Morris can play in space. I think he's more of a thumper, but I think he can play in space. But I do think that when we look at what kind of role guys are filling, and we'll use 2024, just because we don't know what they're going to look like in 2025, right? They could be way more versatile in 2025 than they were in 2024. But when we look at the 2024 roles, it was, all right, well, Pop Howard, assuming everyone's healthy, Pop Howard, going to be more of the thumping type. Shamar James going to be more of the cover man, right? And while I do think Malik Morris is a different player from Pop, role-wise, he would be more Pop Howard than Shamar James. Izayia Williams is someone that I've said before, like when I watch Izayia Williams play and I just look at his frame, like he looks like a pretty built kid, right? Fast as hell, like just a great athlete. When I look at that, and I will say he's listed as like 6'1", 6'2", depending on where you look. He looks like he's got really long arms, which can negate maybe being a little shorter. And I say maybe a little shorter because I've said Izayia Williams is someone that I look at and I go, all right, well, I could see him coming down to the edge a bit, right? Like not saying full-time jack linebacker, but I could see him as an off-ball guy that comes down and plays Sam a bit, or comes down and is a bit of an overhang defender. Like I can see Izayia Williams doing that long term because I look at the athletic traits and I look at just your physical build and I go, all right, well, I think that you can hang in there and still operate like someone who can drop into coverage and not be a liability. Like I look at Izayia Williams as someone that can play multiple roles defensively, be a big time special team. Like he, again, with his speed, with his burst, is someone that if he's coming down on kickoff or if he's on punt, he can light people up and be a complete difference maker there. And I'm not saying that he's going to be coming in and you're just a special teamer. So he could play defense and be a difference maker on special teams. I think that's huge. That's one of the reasons I would take him. I know that there's so many Florida Gators fans that talk about the 5 commits and all that stuff and committing to Florida and flipping away from Florida, all that. Like, I understand all that. But we haven't heard other off-field concerns that are more serious. I'm not going to shy away from it. Like, he's a baller. Get him. If you're a talented player, sure. If you're a talented player that doesn't have legitimate red flags, sure. Come on. And for everybody going, oh, the portal risk. Yeah, everybody's a portal risk. Welcome to college football in 2025. Who cares? DQ Forkpa is committing on July 12th. Williams can commit. Izayia Williams can commit at any point he wants, right? And I will say this because I know that pretty much everybody, I think, shares this sentiment. He can commit to Florida by the time this show comes out. I'm recording this late on Monday night. He can commit to Florida middle of the night. I'm not counting him in this class until he's signed. On the flip side of that, I am not counting him out of this class until he signs somewhere else. It's been a very volatile recruitment. It's been a roller coaster ride, right? I'm not counting anything as done until it's done, at least with his commitment. With every recruit, really, but specifically with Izayia Williams, I'm not counting it as done until it's done. We're going to talk about the rest of this Florida Gators 2026 recruiting class when we get back with Locked On Gators. Thanks again for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day, every day. We are available daily and free wherever in the podcast and on YouTube. To wrap up today's show, we're talking about this Florida Gators 2026 recruiting class, which, again, like I'm not trying to harp on this really, but I do love the base that this class has now, right? And part of that is because we spent so long not having a base in this class. Like, we spent so long where Will Griffin was the only commit. Or we spent so long where it was Will Griffin, Devin Jackson, Jalen Waters, and Izayia Williams. Those players right now, Will Griffin, still a Florida Gator commit. Izayia Williams, an Ole Miss Rebel commit. Devin Jackson, an Oregon Ducks commit. And Jalen Waters, Miami Hurricanes commit. Like, what was a 4-man class, and we was like, all right, well, that's a decent ground Florida started on. Then plummeted, right? And now, 2 months ago, Florida had 1 commit in the class, and it was Will Griffin. Now, you've got more than that, right? Now, you've got Will Griffin at quarterback, you're done at quarterback. If you've got Carson Baker at running back, you're probably going to take another running back. You've got Marquez Daniel at receiver, you're probably going to take another receiver. You've got Justin Williams as a running back / wide receiver who will count, and we have been counting him as a half in each of them. So you got 1.5 running backs, 1.5 receivers. you're going to take again. I do think that right now they view Justin Williams as more of a receiver. So we'll say you got 2 receivers, right? Carson Baker, take another running back. Marquez Daniel, Justin Williams, take another receiver. You can call it a day receiver. Tight end, you've got Kekua Almua. You're probably going to take one more, most likely Carson Snead from Tennessee. Call it a day tight end. Offensive line, you've got Tyler Chuklium, Chancellor Campbell, Javari Lucas, Janari Carr, and Desmond Green. We can say that we feel pretty good about adding Hezi Kent, tight end, converting to offensive line. That's it for offense. Offense, you got 1 running back, 1 receiver, 1 tight end, and then it's +1 anywhere else. Anything else is extra credit. Offense is solid right now. They're pretty much done with the 2026 side of the offensive class. That's huge. I can't remember the last time it was early July and we were like, yep, they're pretty much done on this side of the ball. Can't. And especially feeling good about most of the commitments, right? Like Will Griffin hasn't taken visits. Like we feel good about that. Carson Baker, I feel really good about. At least I do, sticking long term. Marquez Daniel, we saw reports came out, yesterday or 2 days ago of Sidarian Morgan tweeting, let's get him the flip, or posting on Instagram. What happened? Right after that, Marquez Daniel posts on Instagram or posts on Twitter, locked in with Florida still. Pictures of him and Billy, pictures of him on his OV. Reassuring, right? Kekua Almua feels like Florida is pretty comfortable there. Maybe late in the cycle, a West Coast team can convince him because he is from Hawaii. So maybe a West Coast team can convince him to move closer to home, but we'll see there. Then offensive line, of course, feel pretty good about Tyler Chukwium, feel pretty good about Chancellor Campbell, feel pretty good about Javari Lucas, feel pretty good about Janari Carr, feel pretty good about Desmond Green. I do think that Desmond Green is going to be tough to hold on to. Not that I think it's likely he leaves. I do think that he's someone that I view as a pretty solid commit. But just I do know that everybody's going to be pushing for him. And Tyler Chukwium, I think he's going to skyrocket up rankings once ranking updates come in. I think that there's going to be a lot of people that want him in their class, rightfully so. The defense, and you've got Kendall Gervil and Jarayla McCoy. Jarayla McCoy is going to be playing the edge. Kendall Gervil is an interior defensive lineman. You need another 2 to 3 front 4 players, right? Another 2 to 3 interior defensive lineman edge rushers. In fact, I'll say 2 to 4. 2 to 4 D-line edge players, okay? Linebacker, you've got Malik Morris. You're going to take another 1 to 2. Hopefully 2, because that would mean that you land both DQ Forkpa this weekend and Izayia Williams whenever you land them. Then you're done at linebacker. But it's like even linebacker, right? You've only got 1. You're going to take another 1 to 2. But even then, you know who they are and when they commit. And now it's just about actually getting them. But like even linebacker, you've only got 1, but you're pretty much done because you're just waiting on responses from these 2. So you can't really do much more at linebacker right now. Corner, we know that Florida has said they want to take 2 corners in this class. You've got 2 corners. They both they play a position with CB as the initials, and they both have CJ as their name, CJ Brono and CJ Hester. And they're both committed, like I've been pretty adamant about. I do think that at some point they'll look to add a 3rd one. That's, bottom of the class guy. It's just an athlete, developmental piece. Probably from the state of Florida. That's been a big trend of theirs. I know that in the 2024 class, there was a guy that I thought Florida was going to take as a bottom of the roster secondary piece from out of state. And they ended up saying, you know what, we're good. We're going to take Greg Smith III as our developmental DB. Obviously, he's gone now, but that we're going to take Greg Smith III as our developmental DB because he's from the state of Florida partially. Like that went into it. Happens. I still think we see them add a corner late, or at least look at a corner late. Safety, they've got 1 committed in Caden Hall. They're going to be a hat on the table for a few guys and probably take 1 more, maybe a second, depending if it's a +1. But they're really in a spot where they've still got obvious needs, right? Or they've got needs, obviously. But this is a really solid base to say there's 5 months left of building this class. You go out there and because let's be real here. If Florida goes out there with all the hype that is around DJ Lagway and all the doubt that's around Billy Napier, and with this very difficult schedule, if you're Florida and you go out there and you handle business, you're not losing commits. Like that, you're not at risk of that. We've seen teams have great classes. Last year, USC have great classes, underwhelming year, and the class kind of falls apart. That's not happening with this class as long as you win your games. You go out there and handle business and do what you're supposed to do on the field, kids aren't going to want to leave this class. They're going to go, oh my God, I'm going to get DJ Lagway in his junior year as my freshman year. That's what they're going to do. Kids that you missed on, they're going to look at you and go, hey, can I get back in there? Like this is a time where I really don't think I've felt better about a Billy Napier recruiting class 5 months before signing day. But that's the situation that we're in right now. And it feels pretty damn good to be in. I'm not going to lie to you. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. Every day we are available daily and free wherever it's in the podcast and on YouTube. We'll be back tomorrow at the absolute latest to talk more Florida Gators football. For Locked On Gators, I'm Brandon Olsen. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with New York Giants on SI, and I'll see you all next time.